Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and today we've got Michael Hamway of Kava Love Lounge here to discuss all things under the Kava bar and non-alc umbrella. I am so excited to dive right in and learn so much more, so let's get right to it. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Michael.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor.
Yay. Yeah, I am such a fan of Kava Love Lounge for many reasons that we're going to be diving into more deeply today, but we're going to get to some tough questions. We're going to hit all the topics under the Kava, Kratom, Lounge umbrella, especially when it
Yep.
comes to the intersection of where this type of space really exists in the non-elk space in general.
Yep.
So, all of that being said, I'd love to start by just asking you a little bit about, you know, what your experience in the kava industry has been thus far.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny because I come from Boston, Massachusetts. So we never had anything like Kava, Kratom, lounges, bars, hangouts, but I had never even heard of these products until actually COVID hit and I moved to Florida. I moved to Southwest Florida, and I was kind of like poking around looking for like my go-to alcoholic bar, I guess would be the best way to say that. Um, Came across a Kava bar, didn't realize it was a kava bar, and then kind of got a full education on it. And I'm going to be honest, at first, didn't love it. My ex-girlfriend would drag me there, and I wasn't really a huge fan. I didn't know how to understand the crowds. I didn't know how to like order drinks the right way. So it was kind of like a whole new experience, but it wasn't until like 2 months of that where I finally started to see some like of the benefits that have been being thrown at me for the previous 2 months of like how it can help with sleep, how it can help with, anxiety and depression and all these other wonderful things that these products can help with. I started to actually see the benefits of it. And then I was like, oh my God, this isn't just snake oil. Like this is the real deal. And at the time, I was still in mortgages. I was in mortgages for, over 15 years. I was an executive for mortgage companies all around the country. And I just knew like that there was something special about Kava and Kratom and Kava bars overall. And one of the big indicators to me was when I saw like during that time, it was a lot of debate about politics and things like that. And what I was seeing in the bars that I was going to was that you would have like a starch Republican, right? And then you'd have a very left-leaning liberal, and they would be having like a very productive and like calm conversation over different topics. And I was like, why is no one screaming at each other? Like, why is no one throwing anything at each other? Like, and it was just very different than what I was seeing outside of those bars. And I was like, okay, so the product is special. The people that are in here are special. This is something that needs to be grown. Like this industry needs to be brought to the mainstream. And that's kind of what got me the idea of like, I think I need to get into this. And that's when I kind of made the decision of, quitting my job. And I partnered with my business partner now. His name is Chad Burnett. We partnered on Kava Love, and I sat with him and I kind of laid out what I think we could do. And he was all on board. He has, supported everything that we've done. And I don't typically like to partner with people, just because I've seen partnerships fall apart. I've seen, the bad blood that can create. And him and I have had the best working relationship, which I think has translated into how successful Kava Love has become. But that's kind of how I got into it. That's how this all came to be.
You bring up some really great points about how special the kava community in general is.
Mhm.
I remember the first time I walked into a kava bar was in early 2021 when many states were still like pretty shut down in a lot of ways, but I was in Arizona at the time and they were not. And there was like in this heated time where you could barely even go to like a Target or a Walmart without it being a stressful event of who's
Right.
acting what way. I walked into this kava bar and it was as if like time wasn't even an issue. It was just a meeting place where people were just chatting. And even if they didn't agree, even if they came from completely opposite sides, some people wearing masks, some people weren't, no matter what, there was this common like respect for,
Acceptance.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
accept it.
yeah.
It's the perfect word because it's one of those things where like kava does that thing where it like calms your heart, like it makes you be able to be so present that you're able to have these conversations. But that
Right.
being said, that's only when you got the good kava. So
Yeah, that's
sometimes,
very true.
yeah, sometimes there are, you know, there are some kava bars or smoke shops or all different types of places that sell kava that may sell like product that's either not processed correctly, so it's called dirty product,
Yep.
or the product doesn't have any serving sizes, it doesn't have any recommendations. I'd love to hear from you what it's been like as an owner of a kava bar, knowing that this industry is largely unregulated and there is some personal responsibility in making sure that your product is safe. So, what's it like for you navigating ordering kava for your customers and then also educating them?
So that was one of the biggest things was like, I got lucky because when I first walked into that kava bar, I had a great kava tender that explained everything to me, knew the product, knew the background of the industry. So I got really lucky. But as I spent more time there, which was like when I started to love it, I was there every day for at least 8 hours a day. Like, and I didn't miss a beat. I was there Christmas, everything. But the more and more I saw while sitting there was that new customers would come into these bars and they would ask what it is. And the kava tenders never had the ability to really explain it to people in the right way, where, they would do a lot of things like they would compare it to alcohol, like right off the bat. And then they would compare it to marijuana right off the bat. And it's like you're doing a lot of comparisons, but you're not actually explaining what that product does and what it is. And I think that's what's grown like this negative stigma. And because people don't understand, so they're going to fear what they don't understand, which is how these things start to go in the direction of the gray area. And one of the things that I saw as I was kind of learning about the industry, learning about the community and researching products and stuff like that was there's a lot of dirty products. So to your point, 100%. Like there is so much out there. And what's worse is that the dirty product got to the market first. And that is probably the worst thing that could have happened. But you still see it today. You still go to 7-Eleven, they have kratom capsules and in the aisle with the candy. Like it just gives a bad name to all of that stuff. But one of the things that I was determined to do when I took over Kava Love was nothing goes on our shelves in our fridges, nothing goes on our shelves in our retail section, and nothing goes behind the bar that I haven't made sure is the highest quality that you can possibly get. People say all the time, like, why do you only have like three different brands in your refrigerator? Well, those three brands are the only ones that have proven to me that they can do what I expect them to do. And that is to educate the customer, to have clean product, to not add chemical additives and all this other, junk that keeps getting put into every other piece of food and drink that we take in. I want this to be as clean as we can. And of course, it's never going to be 100% ever. Like, and there could be a billion regulations, it still won't be 100% clean. But we have a responsibility as bar owners because we are the first line of defense on educating these customers. And they have to be able to trust that what we're saying is true. And the only way you can do that is to back it up with what you're presenting to them.
Absolutely. For those of you who are listening out there who have never, like, you're just kind of dreaming about a kava lounge right now, one story that I always wished I had like known about before I had ever been a manager of a kava bar myself was how much the health department like they know some stuff for sure, but there's a lot of
Yep.
stuff that they don't know. And in some
Yep.
states, it's not always the health department. Some states deal with the agriculture department. But at the end of the day, there's always like a government body that comes in and wants to ensure that your products are good. So, number one, if you can't even explain the product, where it comes from, all that background, usually the health department right there will be like, okay, well, we can't do the do. But what
Yeah.
what we found in our experience that worked was always making sure that you have a COA, a certificate of analysis of every product that you're selling, so you understand if it's good or not, basically. And what's crazy is, and I'm just so curious from you, there were a few like kava samples, kratom samples that had come through, and we were like, okay, well, can you send us a COA? And they sent us this like super weird photoshopped thing that like I knew
What?
wasn't right because I've worked in a nutritional chemistry lab before. I
Yeah.
used to write COAs and send them out to
And you,
people.
so
So
you know what the
so
lab
I
reports look
knew.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, but like this one like I mean it almost got like it got past our product manager who like she was younger. She
Oh my
just
God.
didn't know. And
Yeah.
like, and it's crazy how far these bad actors will like they're so good at being bad actors like
Yeah.
that it'll go. So I'm just curious, have you ever dealt with any sort of like, oh, I don't know, there is a COA, but it looks weird. Like, how do you like at the
So
end of the day, what makes you trust a brand?
So the thing is like that happens frequently in kava bars, and I've heard stories about it. But one of the things that, coming from my corporate financial world, what I am used to is looking at documentation. So like I am very used to making sure that things are in order, that things are being done right, and that I can read the reports to tell me that they are. And one of the things that we did, we had a different creative supplier when I came on board. And it wasn't the worst stuff in the world. It didn't make anyone sick. It didn't didn't make you kratom sick whatsoever. But I wasn't sure about them because they couldn't produce those exact reports you're talking about. And as much as they are like Kava Love already had a relationship with them before I came on, I still didn't feel right about not having those and not knowing that I could get them if I wanted them. So I started to kind of research different distributors, and thankfully, being in Florida, being the mecca of kava bars in the United States, we have a lot of them. So I had a good, wide range of people that I reached out to, and we actually ended up landing on two. And we kind of get all of our product from these two specific vendors. And anytime I ask for lab reports, anytime I ask for like, what's the percentage of this, like anything I ask for, they are answering within 10, 15 minutes. So it maybe I got lucky. I did talk to like 10 of them. But this one specifically, like that we use as our main supplier, he has gone above and beyond for us numerous times, with making sure that the product is absolutely the way it should be. And even he has come across bad stuff through him that he doesn't sell, and he just gets rid of it. So it made me like, one of the things that I value the most in my business, no matter what situation it is loyalty and to have the same vision that I do. As far as this industry goes, we can disagree on everything else, but as far as this industry, this is something that needs to be brought to the masses. And I know you are in Arizona. I've been to a lot of the bars in Arizona. I love them, especially, and I always forget the name of it. Um, there's something with an M. Um,
Meraki.
my favorite.
We love
Like
Meraki.
favorite kava bar in Arizona. They were so
Um,
nice. They were exactly what a kava bar, or exactly what we do at Kava Love. It's like you walk in and it's like you feel at home. Like I had never been in this place before in my life, and they welcomed me with open arms. They were like explaining what they had, and we were just kind of talking back and forth and sharing ideas. And it was like, this is what this industry is supposed to be and supposed to be about. So yeah, I mean, I kind of digress, but ultimately that is something that means the most to me, is just the loyalty part of it. And when someone can understand that I'm not going to be happy if I get dirty product and then I'm never going to work with them again, that I can't ask for more than that. That's just somebody knowing their customer while I know mine. And that's what makes it work.
yay. Yeah, it
Yeah.
it really doesn't take like it's not rocket science difficult
No.
to find the right product. It's really about finding the right humans to help you get that
that yeah,
product.
that are behind it and everything. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we actually, another example, we had a kratom seltzer that we had been selling even before I came on. We kept it in the fridge, and we kept selling it. But then I started to notice some, I guess, irregularities. So we had a couple of regulars who started having very, very violent reactions to it after drinking it for so long. And I was like, okay, what is this? So we started to dig in, right? And we found this kratom seltzer had some chemicals in it that maybe shouldn't have been in there. And I also started to dig into the company even more and found out they're using very low grade kratom and stuff like that. So I was like, we're done. This is out. And we cut it out. And that's actually when we came across Tea Time. When Brandon he was just starting to develop his company. And I was like, listen, I know you, I know what you're going to do. I know what your product is. I know what you're going to be putting into it. I was like, let's just have exclusivity. I was like, you're going to be the only kratom seltzer that I sell in any of my locations going forward, because it's a trusted product. I know the owners. The owners are good people and they have good morality behind them. Where a lot of these other companies and bars that are popping up, it's just a huge money grab because, like you said, it is such a new industry. It's the Wild West. It truly is. And you're going to have those bad actors, not only with the bad product, but you're also going to have it with the bad bars and the bad, retail as well. And I want to align myself and my company with the people that have those same moralities of this isn't about me. This isn't about anyone. This is about giving people an option other than what's been killing hundreds of thousands of people per year in various situations.
That's very, very true. Shout out to Tea Time. You can check the description of this video or of this podcast episode because we did interview both Meraki and Tea Time here. So you can take a look there to dive deeper into both of their companies because they are both very excellent examples of people who care about their people. And
Yep.
it's so important because these I hear this phrase all the time where, okay, let's say the product is great, like it's not dirty at all, we chose highest quality stuff. We still have to talk about serving size. We still have to talk about how, like, in what situations you're ingesting and all that jazz. And, every time, for example, I've had a conversation with Tea Time and I'm like, yeah, this truly is like one of my favorite products I've ever experienced in my life because not only does it do the job, but it doesn't have any of the side effects. Like I don't get the irritability. But on our last call that I was on with them, we were talking about how like the biggest but is that I never have more than one to two per day. And if I do have two in one day, then I'm not going to have any the next day in order to make
Right.
sure that the body has time to like really, release it. And when we were having that conversation, they were like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I was going to answer. Like they're not
Yeah.
just a great example of people who aren't trying to like, yeah, buy a 12 pack right now and just,
Right.
have a good time. There's a serving size responsibility that needs to be had, whether it's an RTD or you're serving the teas right behind the bar.
Right, exactly. And one of the things, like we've done multiple events with them, as I'm sure you know, and that we're actually having our New Year's party with them as well. But every time I see them in here, like during an event where they have a table set up, how even they explain it to people when people are asking them, oh, what's tea time, stuff like that. They're explaining it just like how my people would explain it and how we've trained our people to explain it. And that's so refreshing to see that a retail seltzer company that doesn't have, direct consumer interaction every time and doesn't have that kind of ongoing customer interaction one on one. But when they do, they're so on point with it and it's about the people buying it. It's not about their product. And I couldn't love that any more than I do. And it just kind of embodies what this needs to be. But
It's
I'm,
true.
but it's funny you bring up like serving size, stuff like that. I mean, I know, being a customer for a long time, I knew like how it was brewed essentially just by sitting there. But, whenever I would ask about like how much are you putting in? Like what's the grams per ounce? Like all those questions weren't answered because they couldn't. And justifiably they're kava tenders with NDAs. I get it. And I eased off of asking after a while, but like one of the things that is always brought up is like, well, how much is in it? Well, like it's not as easy for a bar to explain that because, for instance, Southwest Florida has where Naples has 7 kava bars. Okay, and all of us are different and how we brew and how we make our drinks. Pretty much everything is different to a degree. One of our claims to fame is if you can see that the kratom is very, very, very clear with no murky stuff on the bottom. And there's a specific brewing method that we use to do that, which makes it a little bit more palatable for newer people that have never had something like that before. And that we can't give out the amounts without giving away that. And that is our like our thing. So but every bar has that thing where they like even the slightest bit of release of that could mean that your proprietary information is out there. And I know sometimes that sounds crazy, and we should be talking about the serving sizes, which is why, at Kava Love, we developed kind of like a I hate to say like a Burger King method, but like it's almost like have it your way, right? We have different like stages to our drinks. So we have powdered kratom that we brew. That is like our entry level. It's like we like to say you're gonna feel it if you're not used to it, and it's really just refreshing, and it's kind of like that milder dose. That's option one. Option two is our crush leaf, which is a lot stronger. It hits you a lot harder, and if you've never had kava or kratom before, then you might not feel so great if you chug 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? And then we also have the next level up, which is what we call extra love, which is just a very high concentration crush leaf. And then we have the highest, which is extract, which is for the veterans and the people that have been drinking for a long time. And, their tolerance level might be a little bit higher than somebody just walking in the door. But we wanted to make it so that every single person in their stage of learning about this can enjoy it and enjoy it responsibly. One of the bars when I was just getting into the industry, I'm not going to shoot out names or anything like that, but one of the bars that I went into when I was first learning about the industry and everything was on the other coast of Florida. And I went over there and I got handed, I think I just ordered like a green with lemonade. And I get this 36-ounce glass, like this big. And I took maybe 5, 6 sips of it and I got kratom sick.
Oh man.
Um, and bad, like real bad. And it was not pleasant. And I had been drinking, like I told you, I'd been at the other bars for every day drinking it. So, in order for me to have that tolerance and then go into this other establishment, have 6 sips, and feel like I've never had it before in my life, that was extremely strong product. And it's not fair to the consumers to keep putting out stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger because eventually you're not going to be able to chase the dragon anymore. And at some point, it's detrimental to not only yourself, but also to the business. It also detrimental to people around you that have to deal with it. And it's not appropriate and it's not responsible. So the tiered system, and I got a lot of grief for probably a year straight about how our stuff wasn't strong enough anymore. And they wanted it stronger and stronger. And I was putting kind of a rock and a hard place because I wanted to give the customers what they wanted, but I also didn't want to strengthen everything across the board because then the newbies that come in feel like they're never going to have it again. Because if I'm a new customer and I have that drink that I had, that big one, and I had never had it before, and that's the sick I got, I'm never touching that stuff ever again. Like
No.
it's almost like food poisoning. You go to, your Chinese food restaurant, you get food poisoning. You're never going to that one again,
Yep.
because it's the same concept. So,
It is.
but yeah, that's kind of how we do it, and that's how Extra Love was born. Actually, that's the highly concentrated crush leaf, and we actually put a limit where only 2 can be sold to a customer per day.
Mm.
So that way, we're not, oversaturating someone's tolerance levels.
Yeah, if we don't have any regulation in the industry, we need to find a way to at least regulate ourselves and our community in order to keep it strong, keep it protected,
Yeah,
because with great freedom comes great responsibility. So
that's very true.
if we want to have more rules, all we have to do is keep being rude to people and just
Yeah,
serve them what, you know, how much they think. But at the end of the day, I believe that great service is not just about delivering what people say they want, because more often than not, people don't know exactly what they want. They're not, you know, masters of your menu. All they know is they're feeling some type of way, and they heard that you have something that can help them not feel some type of way. And they're
right,
just learning, they're coming to you at this like vulnerable moment. And, they just, and that vulnerable moment, by the way, can be a variety of different things. So, those of you who are tuning in and don't really know the amazing positive effects of kava and kratom, there's a lot of really amazing testimonies out there where people who are suffering from a variety of different life circumstances have found comfort and joy in both of these botanicals. And there are also some people who have experienced the bad stuff, or they experienced the wrong serving size, or a horrible combination of the two. And all of that being said, I'm really curious, what is it like when you're onboarding a new kava tender and you're like training them to, be in that aware conversation with people? Like even so, for example, I remember one time as a kava tender, I had, there was this one regular that would come in all the time and he would way overdo it, but like, that
Mm,
was it was what it was. He wasn't overdoing it to the point where we were like, "Hey, you gotta leave." It was kind of teetering on that point. But
yeah,
once he brought his friend in and was trying to make his friend do that amount, we were like, "Nope, okay, buddy.
you're done.
I am going to explain to your friends, and we're not going to order what order you just gave me. I'm actually going to amend that for you." So that was
Right.
kind of the environment and the energy that I was always in. I'm curious what it's like when you train your kava tenders. Like how do you
So
like get them into that process of being really careful with their customers?
So we have come across a lot of different things over the years. One of the biggest things is when we bring a new kava tender on, I have a great management staff. And actually, we have some of the lowest turnover I've ever seen ever. We still have our original kava tender that
Amazing.
works for us. She left for a little bit for a little hiatus in Europe, but she came right back. And one of the things that makes that great is that because we're just such a giant family that we're all willing to help out each other. And it's really cool to see when you see that original kava tender, and I'm gonna shout out her name, but her name's Vanessa.
Yay,
And
Vanessa.
she has always been somebody that hung out in the bar as well as worked here. So even when she's off, she'll be sitting there sometimes as we were growing, and she would say, "Okay, don't explain it like that next time. Do this," and she would kind of like advise people on how the best way to do it because she also is going for her medical doctorate and in holistic medicine. So she has studied these things pretty dramatically, and that has worked great. We also have like scripts prepared of data points and stuff like that we've gotten from the American Kratom Association or other various reputable studies on it. And but we also tell them, listen, here's the script, but you need to make it you. Like, because I think that when you're just reading off a script and just going like that, like it doesn't have the impact that it does if someone's excited and driven about it, because all of our kava tenders are. So show that, but use the facts, use, statistics, give the right explanations for what they are. And sometimes it's a struggle with some people and they need additional training. We maybe will sit down and just kind of do like a fake interaction type of situation, but we try to make sure that everyone is ears up and trying to, hear when people are explaining things. And if something's not being explained right, one of my other people will step in and be like, this is how it is, and that type of thing. So it's really a team effort. And that's kind of how I look at everything in this industry, is that we all should be working as a team.
It's true. There's nothing more sad to me than like seeing a kava bar that at one point was wonderful and then you go back and there's no one that you know. So you
Yeah.
know the knowledge didn't get passed down. It's so sad. And it's so
Yeah.
wonderful that you guys have been able to retain not only, the knowledge, but the people to be able to like
Yeah.
pass that along. It's so, so important because I always, whenever I was hiring for a kava tender, I never allowed anybody to even give me a resume unless they had at least a year experience as a barista or a bartender because there's just so much to learn that if you don't know
Yeah.
the basics of like just having some muscle memory on drink pouring, like, man, this is going to take you a couple months to get good at this job. But what I
Yep.
do want to mention is, when I was kava tending, I was making more than I ever did salaried because of the amount of like the people who came in and wanted to have those conversations, and then you're helping people and you're taking that time and you're explaining the kava, the kratom, or whatever other things you're selling. I mean, you're literally changing people's lives. Like they grow attached to you. They are thankful for you. You're offering a service that in other parts of society just don't really exist. So, huge shout out to everybody listening out there who is or ever has been a kava tender because that job does not get the respect that it deserves in so many
No, it
ways.
doesn't. Yeah.
It is a real career path, and you can sustainably live a good if you're doing it full time and you're in an area and you know how to help people and upsell and do all the things. I mean, you're set.
Oh yeah, with tips, I mean, on average, my kava tenders make about between 28 and $35 an hour. I mean, it's substantial. I mean, it's not nothing to, snub your nose at.
Hmm. Absolutely. And depending on different areas of the country, I mean, let's say, for example, downtown Phoenix in the middle of the arts district when all the streets are shut down and there's an art festival, you can walk out with 1,000 a day. Like it
Oh
really
yeah.
is. I mean, it's tremendous responsibility. And
Yeah.
to give a sort of parallel to the atmosphere that is kind of created not only with the products but the people. I want to, previously we had a conversation about the vape industry and how
Mhm.
there are some really awesome parallels that we can draw and things we can learn from them. So I just want to start off by asking you, first off, can you give our listeners a little bit of a rundown of vape shop culture, especially in Florida, because there's a little bit more of a third place element to that there than there is in other parts of the country.
There is. So actually, pretty much every gas station in Florida is a vape shop. Pretty much every single one of them. And then there's the actual vape shops. Um, but one of the things that, because I was fascinated by the vape industry when it first started to kind of come to market back in 2014, when it really kind of like when, where people were building like their big mech mod box vape things and stuff. And it was like, so I got into all that and I got into like learning about how the industry was being created because I was a smoker. So like this was like, oh my God, I can use this to quit. And it worked for me. So I kind of fell in love with the industry and kind of kept my eye on it. And I had a friend who owned about three or four in Massachusetts, three or four vape shops in Massachusetts. And it wasn't until I realized, like, okay, kratom and kava are the vape of beverages. Because at the end of the day, what happened with the vape industry was they came to market, they didn't advertise the right way, they didn't self-regulate themselves, which if you self-regulated, then you wouldn't have had, the feds coming after Juul, you wouldn't have had them coming after companies like Puff Bar and stuff like that if they had just self-regulated themselves. But the biggest parallels I see is the alternative, right? Now, no one is saying that all of these products are 100% healthy and great for every single person that drinks them. I don't think there's anyone that would ever say that. But compare it to what it's there to substitute for, and that is alcohol. And yes, alcohol has been being consumed for generations since the dawn of time. Doesn't mean it's not killing people. I mean, if you think about liver disease, you think about heart problems, blood issues, kidney problems, affecting male prostate, like anything that has to do with alcohol is vastly worse than what it would be if you had a kratom drink or a kava drink. And but you still feel great. Like, and that's where I was like, okay, so with vaping, it's not 100%, right? I know that, but it is way better than the cigarettes that I'm smoking that kill over, I think it's 550,000 people a year at this point. No one's died from vaping. So I'm not, that's where I kind of put it. And that's why with the kratom stuff, that's why I put that in the same box, is because I haven't yet to find people who actually die solely from kratom. There have been reports of people that have had kratom in their system, but then you find out there was cocaine too. And then
Right.
you find, this person died of kratom. Oh, okay, she bought too many at a gas station and took all of them at once. It's stuff like that where it's like dirty product, or it's mixed with other things, or there's a vast change in all that stuff. But ultimately, you're not going to find someone that goes into a kava bar, drinks one drink, and drops dead outside. That's not ever going to happen. And at the end of the day, I saw the vape industry, how it didn't handle itself the right way. And I said, okay, the kratom industry needs to do things different, because if we follow the same path that they did, it's never going to get legs before it can run.
It's so true. What a good parallel to look at because, you know, okay, I'm having three different thoughts at the same time. And the one that really stands out to me is uh, how you're talking about how, yes, there have been people who have had issues with some of these substances in the past. However, what do we look at the whole combined picture for? There was a few calls I'd had earlier this year when we were first like really setting up our entire consultancy agency. And we come from Kava world, we come from the Kava industry. I have worked at a tea shop, like a tea bar back in the day, and I've worked at hundreds, almost thousands of establishments at this point because I was a traveling performer and I literally would
That's
go through.
awesome.
Yeah, I went to like different bars everywhere, all over the country, different tea shops, like weird. I've seen all the weird different iterations of like nightlife out there. And what I will say is this: if kava or kratom gives you a bad reaction, besides just the things that we were talking about with serving sizes and dirty product, like if you're taking this from like the holistic herbal perspective, not even quite woo woo, it really still is biological, but
Yeah.
the whole thing of like both of these products do a wonderful job of purging you if there is something in you that's not supposed to be. So, for example,
Right.
one time I remember just being at a kava bar and there was someone who had come in who was drinking alcohol then and some other substance, not sure of what it was, but they had kava and it made them fall over. It wasn't the kava's fault. It was, okay, what's all happening together? Right when he came to, he vommed.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
to me, it's always been about like, there are different things that we associate, like we associate getting sick with being unpleasant, but sometimes some of these products, like again, this goes along with the education. It's like they're going to have different reactions for you, but it at the end of the day, so long as you're like listening to your body and you're listening to the people who really care about this and you and wanting to make sure that the products are good, it's only a matter of time before you find like the right product for you, right? So for example,
Right.
what's um there's all these different strains of kava. There's over 100 varieties. Which one works
Yep.
best with you? Me and my husband have totally opposite tastes when it comes to what our favorite strain of kava is. He loves the stuff that's more in the body. I have had panic disorder for so long that like the more heady stuff is the thing that has kept me calm, cool, and collected for years and years and years at this point. And so all of that is to say that sometimes, even if you can't find like your first experience isn't the right thing, I would
Right.
love to hear from you. What advice would you give someone who's really interested in this? For example, we have a lot of clients at the Modern Mocktail who they come to us because they want to start a non-alc bottle shop or a non-alc bar. And then because we love kava and kratom and we spread the gospel of it, Then
Yeah.
they start to fall in love with the industry, and then they're like, oh, wait, I don't actually know that much about Kava and Kratom. I'm kind of a little like, how do I know what a good one is? So, not even talking from a distributor point of view, but if you were a consumer for the first time, what advice would you give in letting people know, like, okay, it's probably good to try this, or ooh, that's a red flag. Don't go there.
So I would say stay away from first thing with kratom, stay away from extract right off the bat. Just stay away from it for as long as you can, because at the end of the day, it will make you sick. And the other thing is one of the big questions that we actually always ask people every time they come in that they're not regulars, we don't know who they are, is we always ask, have you had any alcohol? Because that's the thing that we see, kind of bringing it back to your point from earlier, is something going to happen inside of your body that has nothing to do with the kratom, but it's that mixture of the two inside of you that's going to cause the problem. But I would say try everything, but try it in moderation at first. A lot of people will think that, they come in, order a drink, and they're done with it before they even hit the door. And it's like with these products, you have to take things slow. You have to enjoy them, but do so, in moderation at first, because your body needs to understand what is coming in. And if it doesn't, and it's like anything else, like any food or anything like that that can have a negative reaction if you do it too fast or too much.
Such good points. Such good points. So now I want to turn us more towards the future.
Mhm.
Where do you think the kava industry is going? And as like a second question with that, where is that overlap with the general non-alc industry?
So the future, like my outlook on the future is that we are at a fork in the road, for our industry. We are either going to be put into like not the black market, but like into the black, or we're going to come into the light. Because right now we've spent years in the gray area, years, and it's time for us to try to take a look at ourselves and try to figure out, okay, how do we make this so that it can come to the light? I think, just off the top of my head, I think there's 800 plus kava bars in the United States currently, or the last time I checked. And then 83% of them are in the state of Florida. Okay. That is a wide discrepancy, because you have all of these states. And honestly, I was shocked when I went to Arizona and I found you guys had kava bars. I was blown away. I was like, there's no way these are real. And so it was, but I think we have to, self-regulate ourselves. We have to have some accountability for what we're delivering to customers, as not only as product, but information as well. And I think that there needs to be more of an emphasis on, making sure that people understand that this isn't that black magic voodoo stuff that's killing people they see in the news from years and years ago. I mean, you go on Google and you search kratom, you get some of the worst stories imaginable, and that's not the norm. Those are the exceptions, not the rules. And it's disheartening, but it's going to take all of us. When I first started to get into this world and I took over Kava Love and I left my corporate life, it was one of those things where I was like, I want to get into an industry that like everyone helps each other and everyone's together and everyone's moving in the same direction. And because I was tired of the corporate battles and the fights and you know, all the crazy stuff that, happens in office buildings. And I wanted to build something where everyone was together and working towards one goal. And that is to bring this to light. And what I quickly learned was that wasn't the case. I came across a lot of owners that really didn't have any idea what they were selling. I would ask very standard questions to some owners and they would have no idea. And it's like, if you're going to do this, if you're going to get into the bar industry, the kava and kratom bar industry, you need to know what this is. You need to do your due diligence. You can't just be looking at a balance sheet and a margin sheet to see how much you're going to make. That's not what this is about. It's in this community is built to push those people out and to get them out. And I think the community does that better than anybody. But I think it's time for the people that want to do this to actually self-reflect and go, you know what? No. we need to do this for us. So that way we have a long lasting staple in this country. And to get to your question about where does this kind of cross over with the alcohol world is I think I think we are in for a fight. The kava and kratom industry, the reason that we need to band together so vehemently and why I keep saying it is because at some point we are going to garner the attention of industries that have way more resources than us and way more money than us. And we need to be ready for that. And if we're all together and we're working together in one way or another, we can still be adversaries. But at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing and we all need to band together to fight together. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry, not going to be thrilled about this when it becomes mainstream. Alcohol industry, you're already starting to see Anheuser-Busch start to do like slight research into this product. And you're also starting to see, like, for instance, Lipton iced tea made a huge move. I think it was this year. They came out with kombucha. I would never have imagined Lipton iced tea coming out with
Crazy.
kombucha. Yeah. And so the thing is, like, to preserve what we've all built, and we're all a part of it. It's not me, it's not just you, it's not just one customer or the other. We've all decided that this is what we believe in and what we, stand behind. So we need to stand behind each other too, because that's where everything's going. And we need to be able to be ready for some sort of confrontation with government bodies and with other industries that this is going to hurt their bottom line. And if you hurt their bottom line, they will come. It's just facts of doing business, but stronger in numbers.
Mm. That is a call to action right there. And to give a little bit more perspective for this, the Kava Coalition is about to come out with a massive study. I believe 8 million people were interviewed across the United States, not just in Florida, but everywhere. And
Good.
there was a there were, I mean, there's some pretty amazing I mean, we're going to have an entire podcast episode, like a couple of podcast episodes on this topic, but just to like really kind of tie this together, 8% of people have had kava in the United States at this point. That's insane. Like that's
I know.
huge compared to even in 2021 when I
Oh
first
yeah.
started, everybody was like, what's kava? Like I had to give the spiel way more than I'd be actually taking orders because of how often
Right.
I had to explain things. But now we're at this different point. We see Lalo making it into Sprouts. We see Kava Haven, blowing up. And, I feel like I'm seeing it everywhere. Even when we first started consulting in the very beginning of this year, um, we had, there were a few conversations I had with some just non-alc folk who knew nothing about Kava and Kratom. And in fact, I did not give them a great first impression because they hate the botanicals so much. And I'm just like,
Gotcha.
hi, I'm Marina. This is my mission of life is to share this with everybody. And they're like, I hate you because someone in my family got sick or, someone got a dirty product or one of the bad things happened. And so if I were to predict what 2025 is all about, like specifically for the kava industry, I would say that you hit the nail on the head here. This is the year. Like, this is the year
Yep.
where if you have a dream to enter this industry, do it now and do it right. I can help you do that, of course. And and the thing is, like, if you're just stuck on the sidelines and this is something you love and you're not doing something to protect it, just know like we are actively in the battles right now. Like I'm trying to attend every meeting I can find on the topic. And by the way, local business owners always double check what's going on in your state and in your local counties because there's always going to be like congressional hearings and all these other like events that happen at your city hall that help determine, like for example, in Arizona, we moved kratom into the food category, and
Yep.
that helped a lot of things for, making sure products were a little bit more regulated. But also, that only happened because the shop that we were at the time, like that team went and was like, hey, we're using our business data as like testimony to we've served thousands of people and no one has ever gotten sick from this. Here's how we take care of it. So it's not a passive thing in this industry to just, oh, I have a cute shop and that's it. Like there's a little bit more to it, but I don't want to say that to like startle anyone. I think that it's to
No,
empower. Like there's so
yeah,
many things you can
and
do.
it shouldn't discourage people. I mean, in
Yeah.
you're 100% right though. Getting into the industry, you have to realize that it's not just opening a coffee shop. It's not just opening up another bar. It's like it's so funny. Like we have some people that come in sometimes that we don't know, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, like I'm gonna open one of these," and we've never seen them. It was their
Okay.
first time. It was their first time having it, and it's become kind of comical because it's kind of like you have no idea. Like you could have
Mm-mm.
millions of dollars, it doesn't matter. Like because
Mm-mm.
not only do you need to know that information, but the community knows who you are too. So like
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have connection to the community in one way or another, or have learned about it and have come across different people, they're gonna push you out because they don't trust the people that aren't going to give them the information that they need to get in. And I think that you're going to see over time that more and more good people that were previously customers of different kava bars and stuff like that get into the industry. Now, one of the things that I am fearful about of the future is the coffee shop effect. Okay. And essentially what I mean by that is, before Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts were Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, and, Tim Hortons was Tim Hortons, like there was local little coffee shops that were all around the country. And as Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts started to grow in the United States, you saw fewer and fewer of them there because they were getting bought out or they were, getting pushed out because Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts were able to get their prices so much lower than the mom and pop coffee shop down the street. And that has me concerned for a lot of different bars. And I think that, it's even more of a need for us to come together to support each other as well as support the industry because eventually there will be a big player, and I think everyone is trying to figure out who that's going to end up to be. And it could be kava culture, could be us, could be one of the other kava bars across the country. We don't know, but at the end of the day we need to make sure that we are protecting and supporting the local mom and pop kava bars and stuff like that as well, because they're the staples. They're the foot soldiers that have introduced this product to their area, like, and they deserve their due. And I think that that's imperative.
Mm. Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, I have two more fun questions for
All
you.
right.
First one, well, I feel like you've already kind of answered this, but we'll be more whimsical. If I gave you a magic wand and you could boop either something out of existence or you can update something in the kava industry right now, what would that one wand waving thing be?
I think honestly, it would be to remove all of the stigma from Google. That would probably be the
Ooh.
biggest one for me. Because I just don't think that it you hear all the time like, oh, the internet, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, right? But typically, psychology will dictate that when you see something negative, you take it in as truth for whatever reason. Most humans will do that. So when that stuff's all out there like that, it's almost like, you know, kava bar owners like myself are starting a foot race with one of our legs tied up. Like, and that's how I equate it. And that would be the magic wand move, is to remove all of the negative stigma about these products across the board.
Ooh. That's my favorite answer that anybody has ever answered. I haven't even thought of that one. That's a good one. All right. Is there anything else coming up for Kava Love specifically? Tell us what it's like going into 2025, what kind of projects you guys got going on.
So we are actually in the process of franchising, which is a very lengthy process. We're hoping that that will be done in the first quarter of 2025. But we also are going to be working in 2025 on a foundation, a Kava Foundation that will help local communities. So as we franchise, and we want the communities that we go into with these franchises to have a resource for hardships. Like, we experienced Hurricane Ian here, and it was devastating to this area. And one of the things that I don't usually get very emotional, but one of the times I got really emotional was Ian. Because when Ian hit, where Kava Love is located, it's a little bit more inland, and we didn't get as affected at inland like 20 minutes like the coast did. So we were the only Kava bar open in Southwest Florida from Tampa down. Okay, we were the only one. So we had people coming from all over to come into Kava Love because they wanted their Kava bar and they wanted somewhere safe to go because they lost their house, lost, whatever the situation was, they had nowhere to go. And because of curfews that were imposed here in Southwest Florida, I was throwing people out of here at 10 o'clock at night that had nowhere to go. But we had power, we had food, we had water, all this stuff, but I had to kick them out. And it broke me, like, because I could see the emotion on their face of just what do I do type of thing. And the foundation is going to be set up to help situations like that. We've also had a couple of customers run into some very serious health issues, and we all banded together to try to do what we can. And we've done that through multitude of different situations. We've helped animals with the Humane Society, things like that. So that's actually a very big passion project for me, but I think that it embodies what drove me into this community in the first place, and that's having each other's backs through everything.
So the name Kava Love really is what it is.
It is for
That's
sure.
sweet. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience today?
No, I would say like there's a lot more behind owning a kava bar and a lot more behind being a part of this industry. We need more great people. So if that's you, then sign up because those are the people that we need, and we need to harvest those people and grow them and help them grow, and make them into successes because we all succeed if this industry succeeds.
Absolutely. So true. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today,
Yeah,
Michael.
no worries. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. You can go ahead and take a look at the description to learn more about many of the topics we covered in today's session. But also, if you want to get in contact with Michael to learn more about even potentially becoming a Kava Love franchisee, do it. It's definitely one of those journeys that is very, like we said, there's some obstacles here, but it's worth all of it. And the ride is absolutely beautiful along the way. So if you need anything else, as always, go ahead and send me an email, hello@marinamars.com, and I'll be there for you.